We've seen two of the four possible categories for simple ideas from Locke already. We've seen the ones that come from one single sense, and the ones that come from at least two senses, and maybe as many as all five. The other two that remain are ones that come from only reflection, and the ones that come from a combination of sense and reflection. So we'll talk about those in this video. So he's going to say that our third category are the simple ideas that come only from reflection, and these are basically what Descartes' whole project was to find. Ones that he didn't need to rely on all that iffy, questionable sense data to know the truth of. Now it's important to know that these still aren't innate ideas, and remember the math and logic point that Locke made earlier in the lecture and earlier in the reading. We still need to actually do the reflection. We still need to find these ideas. They're not just innately in our heads, but we can do that using our reason, using our understanding. There are two examples here. First, we can tell that we are perceiving. Right? We can tell, I can tell for sure, I see things right now, I hear things right now, I smell things right now, etc. Just from sort of thinking about what's going on in my own head. The second one is Descartes' point, right? I can tell that I'm thinking right now, because I'm thinking. I can think about it and discover that I'm thinking. How could you think about it and find out that you're not thinking? That's impossible. This is Descartes all over again. So Locke's going to go a step beyond Descartes. He's going to say not only can we tell for sure that we're thinking, but also that we have sense data. Though, of course, he cannot prove that the sense data is accurate, but he can at least prove that we have it. So there's that from Locke on the pure reflection ideas. The last category for simple ideas are the simple ideas that come from both sources, and these are probably the most interesting set. These could come from in a couple of manners. So first of all, they could come from either source, right? So the idea of pleasure and pain. It could be a physical pain if I break my arm, or it could be an emotional pain if somebody dumps me, somebody says something mean. The idea of existence could come either from sort of Descartes thinking about it, or I could, go in and poke something. I could, knock on my desk and find out, yep, it exists. It's not just an illusion. Or power, right? I can tell. I can feel my own power to make things happen in the world, right? So if I think I want to move my arm now, and then I do it, whoop, my arm just moved, I have power. That's by thinking, or we can demonstrate it physically, we can see it out there in the world using our senses. Some other ones are even more complicated because they actually require both senses. So something like time, Locke is going to say we need not only sense data, but also to reflect on that data later. To tell that things happen in a successive order, that one thing always comes before or after another, for example, and to establish that time must exist. So this is probably the juiciest, the most complex, interesting set of simple ideas, if complex, simple idea isn't a misnomer. And this is Locke's last set, so he thinks that with these, he's exhausted all the possibilities. He wants to say a little bit more about ideas, and then he's going to talk about what he really wants to say in this section of the reading, which is about existence, which is sort of parallel to Descartes' project. So a couple more things to know about ideas. Having an idea isn't the same thing as knowing where that idea came from, and so I could have an idea of a tree and not necessarily know that that idea came from seeing an actual tree. You can prove this to yourself because think about a unicorn. You got that idea not from seeing an actual unicorn. I can guarantee it. You got it from somewhere else, right? So this means that just because I have an idea of something, I don't necessarily know the source. And for that matter, I don't necessarily know any more than what's the content of the idea about that thing. Right, so just because I have an idea of a tree doesn't mean I know, say my idea of a tree is just what's above ground. Doesn't mean that I know anything about its roots, doesn't mean I know anything about what's inside, etc. So it's going to be tough to do what Descartes wants to do, for example, and go from a few really basic ideas to some much more complex ideas. Further, a lack of something can also cause an idea in us. So, for example, my idea of rest or something staying still comes from a lack of motion. And so this is another way we can get ideas without actually seeing something happen. So Locke wants to tell us now about what he's going to call qualities. And these are different kinds of things that could give us ideas, is sort of the way I want to put it. So there are two kinds of things that could give us ideas. There are things that are really out there in the world. There are ideas, basically, that the one in my head is just like what's in the world, and there are ideas where that's not the case. And this takes some real spelling out, so we will dedicate the entire next video to figuring out what's up with primary and secondary qualities, and that will conclude this reading of Locke for this week.